do not be afraid of what is inside of you. You are who you are for a reason.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to the Talk About the Magic podcast, where you'll find inspiration and encouragement tied together with the magic of Disney. Now, here's your host, Joseph Ballesteros.
What is going on, Magic Cheers? Welcome to another episode of Talk About the Magic. I'm so grateful you decided to join me today. Thank you so much for downloading the episode. And if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to do so you don't miss any future of the Talk About the Magic episodes that we have on here. Focus of Talk About the Magic, the podcast here, is to inspire and encourage you guys. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to have that, right? Today, I have a wonderful, wonderful guest, LJ from SmartMomsPlanDisney.com. LJ was referred to me by a listener, which is awesome. And I say this in the show later on, but I'll say it right now again. Guys, if you guys know someone that you think would be great for the show, please don't ever hesitate to hook us up there, because I'm always looking for people who are out there, really pushing and achieving a goal there. So if you know someone, never hesitate to shoot me an email. Anyway, so I do want to thank so much for the listener who referred her to me. And I checked out the website. I found out more about her, and I was just so blown away by her journey, her story. It's really incredible. So I'm not going to talk too much right now, because I want to get into this show, because it's a lot of value coming in here. So please be sure, guys, to check out the show notes. That's where I'll have her links and everything there, so that way you can easily get over to smartmomsplandisney.com and just share this episode. You want to help out the podcast, share it with a friend, with a loved one. Help them get inspired and encouraged to pursue their own passion and their own dream. Of course, this podcast is sponsored, of course, by talkaboutthemagic.com, where you can check out not only this show, but other shows, as well as some of the latest Disney news that's happening around the parks there. So please be sure to check that out as well. Without further ado, let's get into our show today with LJ. Hello, LJ. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Very excited to have you on. We've, the podcast has so many different type of guests on, and I love it because every single guest that we have, even if they're in the same kind of niche or niche, however you want to say it, are all so unique to themselves. And so, I first found out about you because I had a listener actually email me and tell me about you. And guys, that's why I tell you, all the Magic Cheers listening, if you have, somebody you think would be great on the show, please don't hesitate. Shoot me an email, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I'm looking for, being able to talk to these awesome people. But anyway, so she mentioned to me about you. I went and I looked up your site, which is called SmartMomsPlanDisney.com, and I read about you there. And it's funny because a lot of your story resonates with my own and my family, but I don't want to give too much away here. I want you to kind of explain with your own words who LJ is.
Yeah, this is a hard one because I've got a lot going on in life, but I'll try and keep it brief. So I'm a mom first, probably. 4 kids, 7, 5, 3, and 9 months. All boys except my 5-year-old is a girl. Thank God for her, keeping me sane. So my husband and I have been married for 14 years, and our big thing is just our family, just being all about giving our kids the best life possible. And I think most of your listeners will be interested in how we kind of got to this place where we both work from home. It's hard for me to say, I want to say retired / but we really do work, I think, harder than most people, but it's just on our own gigs. And I think that's what's probably the most interesting thing about me, is that I started working in corporate America, and Disney World kind of led me out of that. And I feel like I found my way out of working so hard for someone else and found a way to do what I love and, earn the money that we need to earn so that we can eat, but still, be able to be home and raise my kids and homeschool them and, nurse my baby. It's very important to me. My baby's 9 months old, And he's the first one that I've been able to breastfeed for this entire time. My other kids, I was working just too hard and away from home, and I gave it up a lot sooner. So I told you I'm a mom, and now I'm talking about breastfeeding on a podcast. So
no, but you know what? I love that though, because that's exactly why I asked this question. I want the listeners to hear the truth behind the person, because it really does bring, it brings an idea of who you are, and then it also lets the listener put themselves in your shoes, because I can guarantee there's moms listening to us as well, and there's there's parents out there who are in the same position that you were in, as far as starting out in corporate, and they wish they could be, spend more time with the kids. And I do want to get into that, because, just like you said, I read about you and everything on the site, and I thought that was just amazing, because what a leap you took from, working kind of, there's no such thing as a safe job, but, quote unquote, a corporate style safe job, to making the move of going to Florida and then owning property there and actually running it there. So can you kind of go into that, as far as what was that like? Because that was a big leap.
Yeah, I actually live in Kentucky, so I didn't move. I didn't move all the way to Florida. The big leap for me was we used to live in up near Lake Erie, in Ohio, and my parents are there, his parents are there, and all of our siblings are there, and we knew, none of us are happy up there. It's just, the weather is just terrible. Just not even, even now I'm like, what are y'all doing up there? But it took a lot to make that move. And stop me if I'm getting in too much detail, but I'll start at the top. I was working like crazy, like right out of college, went to work for a big company, and, making great money, doing really well. And I thought I loved it. And that's kind of a theme that I see all the time, is when I talk to people who are almost ready to start realizing that they want to change their lives, they think they're really happy. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was. And I was doing well. I got promoted. I had a team of about 10 people underneath me. I just had my daughter, and just doing great. And when she was about 18 months old, I decided, let's go back to Disney. We had gone once before, and it was a utter failure. I had gone when I was a kid and loved it, and it really resonated with me. And I wanted to take my children. And we went once when my son was 10 months old, my oldest. And I didn't do any planning, and I just kind of showed up, and we just stood in line, and we didn't know what a fast pass was. And we just made some really poor decisions, and we ended up waiting in line in the Florida heat all day. And so it was a tough time for me to get my husband to go back, but I eventually said, you know what, Ezra, my daughter is walking, the time is now, let's go. And I was really working too hard. So he said, you do need a vacation. So we, scheduled it. And I did a lot, knowing that first trip had gone so horribly, I was like, let me do a better job at this. And I got on Pinterest, and I just started, going to town with the planning, and I got all the books, and just started, listening to podcasts, and became the Disney obsessed. And I thought it was a blip in my life that I would learn this stuff. We'd go on vacation, and then, I'd move on. But little did I know, I really enjoyed the planning. I mean, it was something just completely satisfying to me about finding that little nugget of information that would help our family have a better vacation. And so I told my husband, I remember clearly telling him, I can't believe how much I'm enjoying doing this. And he said, well, just keep doing it then. If and our trip was fast approaching by that point. And he said, even when you're done, we can go again. It's not like this is and it was music to my ears. I'm like, great. So we went on that trip. We invited some friends who had moved away from where we were living. And so it was great to see them again. And they brought their little daughter, and our kids were just so happy together to be reunited. And I, for once, turned the cell phone off and let the emails just go, and just enjoyed my family. And I had memories of my son being 10 months old. And I was able to kind of see why do I only remember him at 10 months? And then now I remember him here. And at this point, he was 3 and my daughter was 18 months. And I just thought to myself, like, I'm letting my life go. This time period in between these 2 vacations, I can remember like 6 days. I have 6 memories of the last 2 years. And I don't want this to be my life. I don't want every single day being the same, going in, making someone else rich, and coming home late. Right around that time, I was coming to grips with the fact that I was missing my kids growing up. Ezra had taken her first step without me seeing it. She had started talking without me. Her first word was not mommy. The relationship was just not there because I wasn't raising her. Mm-hmm. My husband was home with her, so he was a stay-at-home dad. And so daddy was her first word, and daddy was the one that saw everything. And that's wonderful. I'm so glad that it was my husband. Some people are even, in a different situation where it's a daycare provider or grandma or something. To me, I felt like it was at least okay that it's daddy, but I wanted it to be me. Mm-hmm. And I had never really realized that I wanted it to be me until that trip. And I started thinking, I've said before that trip was the happiest that I had ever been, kind of discluding the day I gave birth to those kids and the wedding day. It was just the day where I let go of all the stress and let go of everything that was going on in my life and all the striving. Like, I wanted to do so well with the company I was with, and I felt like they were making it so hard. And I just was able to put that behind me. And I was like, I didn't know you could be this happy without having just pushed a human being out of your body. So I came home and just started, how do I get back there? And my husband, Mike, was kind of in his own state of growing unrest about the situation. He knew that I was working too hard and too much, and that our lives just weren't, like, we were on a path that was going to take us somewhere, but it wasn't the path that we needed to be on to get where we wanted to go. Yeah. And I think we kind of were okay with that for to an extent. We were, get on this path, it will get us to here, and then we're going to have to cross over. And suddenly we woke up and we're like, we're too far down this path. We need to go back. We're on the wrong path, and we need to do some navigation here and get back to where we were headed. And we'd always wanted to know where our food came from. That was a big part of our lives. We eat organic, and we're very careful about, when you can be. We're not overly slow about it, but it's very important for us to know that there's non-GMOs, and we just don't let our kids just eat any old thing. It has to be up to snuff. So my husband had long wanted to have a farm and to raise animals and grow our own food. And he could not do that where we were, which was in the snow belt in Ohio. They have like 30 sunny days up there. It's insane. 30 sunny days a year. So I don't even know, now that I'm down here, I'm like, I don't even know how I survived up there. But so we did a little bit of research on where would be best to grow the crops that he wanted to grow. And I always wanted to stay within driving distance of my mom. I didn't want to be too far away. I wanted to be able to get to her in inside of a day. And so Kentucky fit the bill. I actually argued for Tennessee, but he said it was too hot for what he wanted to grow. So we are in Kentucky. We're about an hour outside of Lexington, in the middle of nowhere. We didn't tell anyone that we were going. It was because my income was with the company that I was going to be leaving. Mm-hmm. We had to ask 1 million banks. We had great credit, but we had to ask 1 million banks to loan us the money for the farm because we could not provide proof of income because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll pay you. Trust me. I'm going to pay you. I don't know how yet.
Yeah.
But we finally found the... Go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, because, yeah, you're bringing up a really strong point that I think, again, this is something that a lot of us feel at times. You had a very concerning moment. I mean, honestly, it had to be pretty nerve-wracking to decide, okay, I'm going to leave this job. And even though I know emotionally and I mean the connection I'm going to have with my kids is going to be better and stronger, I mean, like you just said, like I got to figure out how we got to figure out how we're going to do this. How are we going to pay what needs to be paid? How are we going to... So how was that as far as your mindset? I mean, was it fearful? Were you more excited for a new adventure? What was kind of going through your head to really push you to make this kind of leap?
I hope it's okay to say this on your podcast, but it was completely God. He was totally driving us, and I totally felt like there was an underlying current of support from... I just felt like we're moving in the direction God wants us to go. So I did not have a good setup. We had... When we left, at this point, we had 2 mortgages, 2 kids. I had just found out I was pregnant with baby number 3. Had no insurance. The company owned my car. The company owned both of our cars.
Wow.
They owned my phone. They didn't own Mike's phone. So we had like the one little like iPhone, old iPhone. Like, this is mine now. Like the first stop, I rented a car. I walked out and I had to go rent a car because it's hard to walk out and you have to walk out and then you're like, oh crap, that's your car.
And that's incredible. Like this is definitely a strong thing to do. This is not something that a lot of us can really muster up that kind of courage. That's incredible to take that kind of leap. And what I love about it is because you found something that you felt was worth taking that leap and to do something that you wanted to be able to spend time with your kids and everything and do this, with your husband as well. So how did you, get with the site of creating this site? Because it sounds like with everything going on, the last thing is in your mind is to say, I need to start Smart Moms, I don't
have enough going on. I think I'll start a business. No, we came down, and we were here. We kind of were low key for a little while where it was just about making, the ends meet and paying all of our bills and getting things situated and buying a car that, we actually owned and didn't belong to either, the company. Mm-hmm. So some time went on. I found a job down here and it was fine, I will say. It wasn't something that I felt like I was making a great difference in the world, and it wasn't something that I felt great about doing, but it paid the bills. And I did it for a little while, and I was kind of moving towards being part-time with them, and I was able to branch out. And I got to say that God brought another opportunity into my lap because mm-hmm. a friend of a friend had called and said, you got to get it. You got to learn about this, and he told me a lot about real estate and about, leasing low income properties and how it doesn't have to be as scary to get into as it seems like it is. And so here I am with, at this point, I still owned the house in Ohio. It wasn't selling. So I've still 2 mortgages I'm paying and, 3 kids by this point. And at least we're a little better positioned because I had a job down here. But so I started looking into purchasing low-income housing and fixing it up and getting renters into it. And just God's hand was just completely on it because it went so fast. I brought on some partners and I didn't have very much cash because we were very in debt. We didn't know what we were doing with money. I was just shy of $250,000 in debt at that point. Wow. And I was making great money at both of the jobs that I had, the one up in Ohio and the one down here, So I felt comfortable with that level of debt until you start thinking about the idea of not working. How can I service this debt? You need to make, I needed to make at least $10,000 a month to keep up with my loans, keep up with our lifestyle. And you have to start thinking, if I'm not going to have $10,000 a month coming in, what can I do to not need to pay all of this? And the first thing was like, I look around and kind of came to the conclusion, like, what was I thinking getting into this debt? Like what? And it seems like, that's just how things were. It wasn't a clear decision for me to say like, oh, you know what? I think I'll buy a Tahoe I can't afford. And I think I'll just, some of it was student loan debt. And so
I think a majority of us do the same thing when we look at our debts that we have. We say, what were we thinking?
It creeps up on you. Like the one decision seems to be okay. But then by the time you add up all of it, you're like, wow, I'll be working for the rest of my life if I don't figure this out.
Yeah.
So I brought on the partners and started doing the real estate company. And before I knew it, I had around 30 low-income properties and was bringing in enough money that it was close to what I was making with the job. So I started putting all the money that I was making from the job on to the debt. And then we were like living off of the business income, and we were reinvesting it because I had employees and I was paying them to, do the repairs and that type of thing. And that kind of got me to a place where we paid off all our consumer debt. So now all we owed was our mortgage here on the farm. Mm-hmm. And that was a place where I was a lot more comfortable and was at that time able to leave the job and just to be home. And I was pregnant with baby number 4 by this time. And that was kind of a rough pregnancy. He was, a couple things happened and I was on bed rest and he was in danger. And that actually happened on Disney property. I had to go I had to go to Celebration Hospital while I was down there. But so I laid low while I was pregnant. And then shortly after I had him, I just began feeling that all too familiar call that there's more that you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, no, there's not. I did it all. What do you want from me? But it just kept on, like, just this feeling like I didn't bring you here to sit on the couch and look at Facebook or to just perpetually nurse this baby. You have a story to tell. You have a strength that you need to help other people with. And I argued with God a little bit about that. Like, I don't know how to do anything but go to Disney World. And that's certainly not something that you want me to be. This isn't something that you want from me. I know this wouldn't be something that you'd be interested in. You have to grow another skill set in me if you want me to, go out into the world. And I had been going to Disney regularly, at least once a month for quite some time at that point. Around 2 years, I had been going to Disney once a month. And it was just because it was so important to me to get back there and to get rejuvenated. And I always had the best ideas when I was on Disney trips. And I think it's partially because I can clear my head and just relax a little bit. And like some other part of my brain is working than the part that's handling my day to day. And I always have just the best ideas. And I come back like, just let's do this, So that's kind of where it was.
So I want to get into that little part because this is where I really feel like when you just said that, really you and I are, I'm in the same boat because that's exactly what I've gone through as well. My own personal life, everybody always asks me. I grew up in a pastor's home. My dad's a pastor. Everybody kind of looks at me as, I'm good. You're supposed to do that next. And I've just not been that person. I've not, felt that. But this is what, honestly, I feel I'm supposed to be doing. Honestly, like being able to encourage and inspire others through people like yourself. is just a feeling, and it just feels so like perfect for me. It's a natural thing that I think that God has actually gifted as well. So it's funny because you say that, and I want to get into this because again, you are helping families, and I'm gonna make this sound very not important. So, but this is kind of just to be the devil advocate in this sense. But you are helping families go on vacation. How is that making a difference in the world today? I know that's a lot what we think of immediately because we look at other things in this world and we say this is important and this means something. And if we're not doing that, then we shouldn't consider what we're doing important. And
right.
I this is why I have this show because I'm going to say this again. I know the listeners who've listened probably have heard the story 1,000 times, but I kind of reshaped my podcast and what I was doing after doing a seminar class with Lou Mangello. And, he told me, like, what are you really wanting to do? And I've been asked that question a ton of times. When you're wanting to get into YouTube and blogging, like, they always say that. Like, why are you wanting to do this? And selfish reasons is because it seems like fun and I want to be able to make money and do it and, quit my job. Like, yeah, I want to go to Disney anytime I want. But, like, I really had to look down deep. And when I did that, I realized, we all know about Walt. We all know about, people like John Lasseter and everything. But I want to talk with people who aren't those people. I want to talk to people who are living a, quote unquote normal life that aren't, in the light the way the Walt and all them are, but are doing things right. And that are really making a difference, even if it's just in their own community. Because something that we do is we belittle ourselves and our community. We don't understand that by helping, literally, it could be just our neighbor. We don't know what impact they might have on other people. Like, yeah, maybe I don't have the impact to talk to, 100,000 people. But for all I know, I'm talking to my neighbor who might have their own blog or their own YouTube or something that have 50,000 people on there. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Like, you never know. And even as a parent, being a parent, I don't know the impact that I'm having on my kids to where when they're 30, like, for all I know, my son might be a pastor and he might be somebody who's, making a big difference in the community that he's ministering to. So to me, that's the way I see it. We have a really negative outlook on certain things in our lives because we think, well, if I'm not doing what such and such is doing, I just must not be that important. And that's just not the case. So right. That's why I kind of wanted to get into this part when you mentioned that, because I really, perked my ears. How did you make that connection as far as saying, like you said, like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I just know about Disney. So, let's get into that.
Okay. So I felt like I was arguing with God a little bit where he was saying, you have more to give, you have more to give, you have more to give. And I was like, I'm giving what I have right now. Like, look at me raising these kids. Do you see, this is what I'm doing. These kids are my investment. And he said, like, no, you have more to give. I'm like, dude, God, all I have is being a good mom and going to Disney World. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, exactly. And I kind of, took that and said, okay, well, I am really good at going to Disney World. And we paid off, $170,000 worth of debt in 2 years. And while we were doing that, I was also going to Disney once a month. And wow. I wasn't making, the job that I left, I was making under 100,000, just under, I think like $96,000 a year, 96,000. And, it's not like I was making all this money. I was just being smart. And I think that's where I made the connection, or I guess God really had to connect the dots for me, where I felt like Disney World is a tool for me to support moms. Disney World was a tool for God to get through to me. Like, I was never just going to be like, someday, one day I'm at my office and I'm just like, you know what? I hate this. I don't like this anymore. And I want to be somewhere else and do something else. That was never going to happen. Mm-hmm. He had to show me what life could be like outside of those office walls, and to show me how connecting with your kids on a different level can really feel. And when I felt that, I was able to use it as motivation, and I was able to say to myself, I want a different life. It's going to be hard to go get it. There's going to be parts that are terrible. But if I keep that in front of me, I know that someday I'll get there and I'll be able to go to Disney when I want. I'll be able to see my kids all day, every day. And hopefully I'll have more than 6 memories of the last 3 years that have gone by. And so when I was in this place of kind of arguing with God about how valuable my Disney World knowledge was, that's what he kept bringing back to me, was that, like, I used it to change your life, didn't I? And I'm like, well, yeah. Well, don't you think that maybe we could do that with some other people? Well, I guess. And don't you think that maybe you could help them get to Disney World? Yeah, I probably could. So I also have this passion for moms because I was that mom that was in corporate America. I felt motherhood isolates. Motherhood separates you from the herd, not just mentally, but actually, literally, physically, it separates you. You have all these things to deal with when you're a mom. And when you're in corporate America, there's a big difference between you and the guys when you're a breastfeeding mother. And, I had 2 of my kids while I was in that life, and it was very ostracizing to need to, like they literally like set up a room for me to go to so that I could pump breast milk. And when you get, I'm sure that they viewed that as a kindness, and really it was. They did it with the right intention. But when you're a mom and you're on a team of all guys, there was one other girl on my team of 10, and you have to go somewhere else, be apart from everyone, and go handle your motherhood duties. It was something that really set me back in. A couple times a day I have to leave the fray and have to go deal with this. I'm not part of the team. I miss the inside jokes. And I also saw that though I was leading this team, my numbers were high. I was in sales. So it was very easy to see that I was number 3 in the entire country out of thousands of people. And it was easy for me to see that. And yet I wasn't getting the pay that should come along with it. And I wasn't getting the accolades that should come along with it. And I looked at it and I said, I really feel like, and I'm not going to just like play the mom card here. I really looked at it carefully and said, I'm not getting treated the same because I'm a mom. And God and I didn't have such a great relationship as we do now back then. And so I looked at him and was like, what are you doing? Like I feel like we're your daughters and you're leaving us here. And I didn't get an answer at that time to that question. And probably because I didn't ask it in the right frame of my right tone of voice, the right frame of heart or whatever.
Yeah.
But later I discovered that as I was starting to think about building a business online, I discovered that there was this network of mothers who were all at home with their kids, building a business and running the country from their nursery rooms. I'm sitting in my baby's nursery room right now. And it's piled with boxes from all the books that I have sold and all the orders I have taken. And I realized that, and I heard God saying to me, remember when you asked me why I was abandoning my daughters? I wasn't. I was raising up a secret army of moms who are earning a living from their homes, who are like kicking at being moms, just raising these amazing kids, being there every second, also supporting their families. And I felt like the scales fell off my eyes. Like I felt like, oh, right. You were working here. And I mean, that was part of the journey where, at some point you realize like, whenever I see that, whenever I'm questioning God, I'm at this point, I'm like, I am seeing something wrong. Can you just tell me, because this looks weird? And at that point, I was not in that. I was like, you're doing this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I got the idea of it being about moms, was that I had come into this understanding that God was supporting this group of moms, and that we're doing his work. We're growing up the next generation, and everything that's wrong in the world and everything that's crazy. And we all feel like we can't battle that, but we are battling it, because we're raising our kids the way that we want to raise them. And I said, if I can help these moms in some way, then that's who I am. That's who I want to be, is I want to be a help to these moms. And the next part of that is that Disney World is kind of a cloak a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really about is not being in debt, and not like being able to break free from the slavery that is a 9-to-5 job. That's where I really am. And that's, if you ask me, what do you want to do for moms? I want them, if they want to be able to stay home, I want them to be able to stay home. If they want to be able to have their husband home with them, I want them to be able to have their husband home with them. And it's 100% possible. And it's not as hard as you think. But if I went on the radio and I just said that, or if I wrote a book about that, it wouldn't sell. It wouldn't get into hands. It wouldn't. But if I can say, hey, I'll teach you how to save money to go to Disney World, and I give them some really great tools to save money to go to Disney World. And then once I've earned I think I've earned the respect, and I've earned the right to share more, then I kind of go into, this stuff could actually work in your regular life too. And you might be able to figure out a way to get yourself out of debt. You might be able to figure out a way to start your own company from home. You might be able to figure out a way to get your husband home. You might be able to figure out all these other things. And that's just how it was for me. God had to, if he would have started with me, hey, why don't you quit your job and stay home with your babies? I would have been like, I don't want. But he started with, let's go to Disney World.
Yeah.
Oh. And then from there, kept leading me a little bit at a time in bite-sized pieces that I could handle, until I realized that I completely wanted something different than what I had.
So, which is awesome. I love this, because this is like, I think I say this every show, but yes, this is exactly what the show is about. Because you really have taken that leap and that step, and what I love is, like you said, you have a deeper message. It's not, yes, you're going to show how to save money on Disney, but there's so much more that you want to show and help, and that's especially nowadays, because there's so many ways to get lost in that kind of realm of getting out of the norm of a 9-to-5, and
yes.
There's so many ways to kind of get down a rabbit hole and just feel like, well, I just wasted a lot of money without making any. And so to have someone who is doing it, who did it, and who could really and what I love too is you are focusing on moms, and in the sense of like you just said, you're proving it to them, because I don't know how a mother feels. You know what I mean? As much as I might tell my wife, like, I know what you're going through, I don't. And
right.
and so to have, a mother who really has gone through it, has her own, kids, her own husband, her own family, be able to share with another mother kind of the ideas and the feelings relatable to that, I think is just, it's awesome. So, getting into this next question, you kind of did touch into it, but I guess let's still ask it, as far as what would you suggest to someone, and in this case we can even pinpoint it more to mothers, or even women who are kind of in that weird space that maybe they're not where they want to be, when they're getting in this idea of maybe starting their own blog, or maybe their own label of clothing or something. What would be kind of your suggestion to them? What would be something they need to do? Would it be to go to school, get training courses? Like what would something that you would maybe feel like would help them?
first of all, don't go to school. Don't go to training. I have my bachelor's degree in business, and though I'm glad that I do, I'll be sad if my kids go to college. It has changed my perspective on what college is about and what it does for your life has completely changed. And I tell my kids, like, no, do not go to college. Do not go to college, please. And I actually have money saved for them and their like little college funds. And I'm like, how do I get that out? Can they need to start their own business? Because that's what I need. But for the mom who is where I was 3 years ago, saying, this is not the life I want, but it almost seems impossible to change it or to get out of it. I would say the most important thing is to stop lying to yourself. The number one thing that you have to do right now is to stop being scared of the pain. Like you're probably feeling some pain about taking the wrong path or going the wrong direction. Or like for me, I was 8 years into a great career and I had the student loans and I had the bachelor's degree, and to feel like I need to turn on my heel and head a different direction. There was so much pain involved in that to feel like I had maybe made bad choices to this point, and the $250,000 in debt, well, not quite, but somewhere in there, to feel that and to come face to face with like, yeah, you're not being as smart as you think you're being. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you take your guard down to yourself. Like, I'm not saying you have to go have a conversation with anybody else. I'm just saying get alone and think it through and be okay with the fact that, like, I've made some choices that don't get me on the path to where I want to go. And once you've thought that through and really felt how you need to feel, it won't be nearly as painful as it looks. You're avoiding nothing because you think you're avoiding pain, but then as soon as you look it in the face, it evaporates. And once you've done that and really are honest with yourself about what you want out of life, the next thing is to just be completely open to what that might look like. And that's probably the biggest change in me from the girl in the suit who used to run the company to the girl in the pajamas in the nursery room, is my sense of calm. Like, I don't feel like I have to control every situation. I don't feel like if things, take one left turn, I'm going to crumble. I don't feel like I have to make the 10 grand this month or else. Mm-hmm. And that's because I've learned how to be okay with what's happening in the world. It's, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. If that happens, this is what I'm going to do. And I know that through it all, God's going to be there with me. And I have the faith to know that nothing happens that isn't for my good and his glory. So that's where I hope I answered the question well. I think the biggest things are it's all mindset. And once you get your mind right and you start thinking the right way, you'll be surprised by how easy the opportunities come to you. And you'll know if you're looking and your heart's in the right place, it won't be the first business opportunity that comes to you that seems right. Somebody will offer to, hey, why don't you sell lip sense? And maybe that's the thing, but you'll know, is lip sense the thing or no, not actually not. It's not. And I'm just going to keep looking. And when the thing comes up, then you'll know. And I also have one other thing about that is to think about what you do when you have time to yourself. Like when you have a moment's peace, and I know it's just a minute if you're a mom, what is the thing that you're excited to get to? Build your business around that thing. For me, it was, the kids are, whatever it was, the kids are like I would set the kids up at the table. Here's your homework, your page that you need to do, I'll check it in 10 minutes, get the baby asleep. Now I have 10 minutes. What am I going to do? And it would be like to get my iPad out and go on Pinterest and like read more about Disney World. So that's how I knew that this was the right business for me.
And what I love is like, it's funny because what you say is so true, and we don't notice it usually until, sometimes it's too late. But, looking at your past, you see, oh man, and you realize if I had done this sooner, if I, now I understand why I went through that. And even looking at where you're at now, I mean, like you were saying how it was like 3 years. 3 years seems a long time if you know about it ahead of time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you know this is going to take 3 years, you're like, oh, forget it. But when you realize, like, you live your day, it's 24 hours a day, you live it, it goes by so fast. All of a sudden, you're looking at behind and you're saying, man, that 3 years went by fast, and look where I'm at now.
Yep.
And that's something that is so important, because that's something I struggled with, understanding how it is to really have patience. Like, patience is a terrible thing in the sense that you want something now and you have to wait. And your body just, especially nowadays, because you can pretty much Google anything or whatever it is, like you're so not used to having to wait. And the fact of the matter is, you have to, and it takes time. But the beauty of it is, it really will go by fast if you start working toward it. So I love how you said that.
I think too that there's a really common misconception about what's at stake. I feel like so many people look at starting their own business and think, like, just like you said, like, wow, 3 years is a long time. And I don't know if I want to invest 3 years of my life to get to where she is, or to get to where, where I want to be. But I think that people don't look at the other side of if you don't put in the 3 years, what is plan B? Mm-hmm. And plan B is usually working for 30 years at a job, or 50 years at a job, or whatever it is. And there's other things that go along with that, because you're taxed differently when you work at a job, and so you pay more in taxes. You have to have things when you work at a job. Like, I had to have the suits. So I know I had, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 $200 suits hanging in my closet. Like, that's a lot of money that I don't need to spend every year anymore, because I'm in my Mickey pajamas right now. These things were like $30. And I think that when you really compare, and it's so easy to think that what I'm doing now is the default. This is fine. I'm fine doing this. But are you fine doing that for 30 years? Are you fine missing your kids growing up? Where, and if you are, some people, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that there might be people that are just okay working, that are like, that don't have that like cry in their soul that this is not. And I felt like I actually thought I was one of them. Like, I would have said, I'm that person. I love my job. But then it was, so that is what makes me think, like, when I hear people say they love their job, a little part of me is like, but do you? Or you where I was? I don't. And I take people at their word, but I'm also a little bit like, maybe you do. Maybe in 5 years you don't. And that's okay to change your mind. Maybe you love it now and you love it in 2 years, or maybe you have a baby in between now and then and things completely change for you. And I'm not at all advocating that, women should leave the workplace or should, what I'm about is women should do what they want to do. And if they want to be home with their babies, but they can't because of money, that's where I'm like, don't let that happen to you. You can earn an income from home, and it should be enough. Like, if you're clever, you can earn enough for you and your husband to stay home. What Mike doesn't earn us any money. He's all about food. He grows food, and we have our animals. He's actually a negative line item on our expense sheet every month, but he, produces the food. So if you're a smart mom, you can stay home and make an income.
Wow.
And ramp. Wow.
I love it. And hopefully, I mean, look, you don't have to be a mother to get inspired, because I'm over here like, oh, okay, this is just so encouraging for myself and my own vision, my own plan on what I want. And so thank you for sharing all of this, of course. And of course, if mothers are out there listening, definitely, hopefully this is getting you excited as well, because, you know, like you were saying, a lot of times we just feel comfortable, and like you said, we don't ask ourselves, am I willing to be comfortable in this way for the rest of my life? And a lot of times the answer ends up being no, like you said, and it can change. You know, maybe right now, yes, but a year from now, maybe not. So it's important to always kind of be aware of those kind of things, because you're definitely, I would say, impacting people in a much more personal way with your site, being able with what you're doing. So that's awesome. Now it is time to get into our Disney Power Round.
And now it's time for the Disney Power Round, where we talk favorite parks, tips, and tricks for your magical Disney trip. Let's bibbity bobbity do this.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite park and one thing you love about it?
Okay, oh man, you're gonna hate this answer. My favorite, or maybe you'll like it, I don't know. My favorite Disney park is whichever park I happen to be in at the moment.
What?
Whichever park I'm in at that moment. I am always like, no, this is my favorite. Then I go to Hollywood Studios. No, this is my favorite. Then I go to Epcot. No, this is my favorite.
That's true. Actually, yeah, I guess I'm the same way. That makes. I think we're all the same way. Actually, I don't know anybody who goes to a park and hates it. So that's true. I think definitely.
I do feel like Magic Kingdom will have a piece of my heart forever, because it is where, and if you read my blog or my About Me page, like I talked about the moment that I realized, there was a moment that I realized that I wanted a different life. And that moment was right behind the castle, dead center, right next to the carousel. My husband was holding Ezra, who was 18 months old, and me and my son Seth were dancing, and we were singing along to the carousel music. And like, I just had this moment of, this is what I want, more of this feeling and less of the feeling that I always have when I'm at work. So because that occurred at Magic Kingdom, I think that Magic Kingdom will always be special to me. And that area of the park, I get a little teary-eyed sometimes walking through there, because it's easy to also think, you know, I could have made a different choice. I could have felt that feeling and thought, no, I'm okay, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. And not taken the steps that I took. And it's a little bit like, it seems precarious. I look back and I think the LJ of a few years ago could have made the wrong decision. And I'm just so glad that she didn't.
So, well, yeah, that's what I love about Disney too. A lot of people are like, you know, why? And I think you just really have to go. And when you go, you're going to experience something unique for yourself that makes it so magical and make it so different. For me, you know, I had gone twice as a young, you know, before getting married and with kids, and then I went in 2014 with my own family, and seeing the joy in my kids' eyes completely made Disney a whole different kind of experience. And even more so, something that impacted me was seeing so many Make-A-Wish Foundation kids there. It just really touched me in a way, because I realized, like, this place is so amazing that for so many people that potentially this is, you know, their kind of last, you know, couple months here or whatever, you know, situation. Hopefully they all got better, but, you know, it's something that was so serious like this is a place they chose to be. And to see that happen is just, it just touched me in a way that made me say, I need to do something with this. I need to be a part of what they're sharing. And everybody, like, I know everybody's gonna, you know, everybody has their own opinion, like Disney's this, Disney's that, and that's fine. But the core, the root of what, you know, Walt started there at Disneyland, and then of course migrated to Disney World and everything like that. The core is this place for families, this place for joy, this place for, a peaceful, safe place to be. So to me, that's always there. So, so what would be then your tip for the first time Disney goer?
Definitely have a plan. We didn't do that the first time, and we had a bad time, and it took me a long time to convince Mike to go back because he's like, no, why would we? That was terrible. But the next time when I had a plan, we had we knew what we were going to fast pass and knew what we were going to do and where we were going to eat. So don't decide to go next week. Think about, maybe 6 months from now and set up, or your life, how much time you can dedicate to learning, but put in the right amount of time and, come over to my Facebook group and ask the questions and do your diligence. And to me, it only seems like you should, if you were going to invest, a couple $1,000s anywhere, I think you should think about what goes into.
Very true. And yeah, I mean, again, this goes back to the patience. I mean, you're going to hurt yourself just being like, let's just do it. And then, especially if it's your first time, oh, forget it. It can definitely be overwhelming for sure. So plan is a great idea. So then what would be your tip for someone who goes multiple times to Disney?
Oh, geez. I love, there's so much here. I love having a theme or a purpose to each trip because I think it gives you, there's so much to do at Disney, but if you don't plan it, you can easily find yourself doing the same things again and again because they're the easy, or, how many times I've ridden Space Mountain, and Space Mountain is amazing, but there's a lot of things I haven't done. And would I, give up one of those Space Mountain rides to maybe have gone parasailing on Bay Lake? Yes, but if I don't plan for that, or if I don't know about that, then I'm probably just going to ride Space Mountain again. So I like to pick themes with my daughter. It's usually a princess that we pick. So it'll be like the Snow White trip, and I'll dress as Snow White. Like I'll do what do they call that when you're not really in a costume, but you sort of are?
Like Disney bounding?
Yes, that's the term.
Okay, yeah.
Is leaving my brain. And then she'll be in her little dress, and I'll be, and we'll get our pictures, and we'll try to meet Snow White or do Snow White meals, or we'll spend more time in Germany, and we'll probably watch Snow White before we go. So that's our top of mind, and our souvenirs will all have to do with Snow White. Another thing is that I love is taking one-on-one trips with my kids. Like right now it's 1-on-2 trips because I refuse to leave my baby at home. So he's coming on every trip. He's 9 months old and has been to Disney World 12 times. And we're about to leave on Friday for trip number 13 for his little butt. But so I'll take this trip coming up on Friday is with my oldest son. He's turning 8 on Sunday. And so this trip is going to be me, the little baby, and then Seth. And it's going to be all about Seth. And now I can't go on all these rides because I just have the baby. And that's just how it is this year. Next year I'll be, back to mommy and Seth owning Magic Kingdom, running around like crazy. But I have so much planned where it's about him. It's about his birthday. I'm doing a quest in the park with him, and we'll do the Hidden Mickey book, stuff like that, where it's different. And it's just for him, because my 3-year-old is not going to get excited about Hidden Mickeys. He's not even going to understand. And so when I had the whole crew along, it's a completely different dynamic, but I've written a blog post about one-on-one trips, and it's something special. There's a way I'm a better parent because I do it. Say that.
Yeah, definitely. That's tough for me. We get out there about this is gonna be our first year in the past 3 years that we're not going. We're actually gonna go to Disney cruise, our first Disney cruise ever.
Great.
So that's new. But yeah, for every time we go, I always try something new. But I try to try something new, but I always fall back to no. I just want this because I only get it once a year. So, but I do want to definitely try new things. But yeah, for us, our new thing this last year was sci-fi dining, which was awesome. We loved it.
Yeah.
It was so cool. So for us, that was a big thing. Now, I do want to, every show, before we get into our last question here, I definitely want to give you some time here to just leave out your links, your website, all that good information. And of course, we'll have that in the show notes. But that way everyone knows where they can find even more about LJ.
Okay. So the website is smartmomsplandisney.com. And if you go there, you can probably get everywhere else that you want to go. The Facebook group is Smart Moms Planning Disney because they're actually in the act of planning. So that's why we named it that. And then I'm on Facebook as well under Smart Moms Plan Disney. And the book is called Disney World Within Reach. And it is basically focused on how to get to Disney World on the cheap while still enjoying it to the greatest extent that you want to. And let me look. The link for that is smartmomsplandisney.com/Disney World Within Reach. But if you go to my website, you'll be able to find the book as well.
And of course, guys, we'll have that on the show notes. I do want to thank you, LJ, for coming on. I really had a blast talking with you, and in the email you told me that you were a talker, and I love having talkers on the show because I'm a talker, and I think there's nothing better than when somebody can just go. You know what I mean? Like when you're able just to let it out, it's awesome. So I want to thank you for coming on and just sharing your story. And I know people, obviously, guys, please reach out to LJ and myself. Let me know, how this has affected you. I know, especially for the mothers, this is something that I think is exciting because, this is, we have a lot of people on here, but this is definitely the first time we've had this kind of take on it from this perspective that's so direct in that way. So I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Now, before we do close this out, I always leave the guests with an ability to leave to answer this last closing question, which is to just leave off some, inspiration, encouragement, just some advice that you would like to leave with the listeners. So if you could just share whatever it is you feel to tell them, go ahead and do that now.
Okay. My best piece of advice is to be who you are and do not lie to yourself. Do not be afraid of what is inside of you. You are who you are for a reason. And I know it can be scary to look at that and to take yourself off autopilot and really look at who you are and who you want to be. I know that can be scary. Just lean into the pain, go for it. It won't be as painful as you think it will be. And you'll come out the other side a lot happier if you take the time to be who you are.
That's awesome. I don't think I could say it any better than that. And honestly, you have proof of what you're saying, so I love it. That's something definitely I want to keep in me as far as yes, be who you are. And it's hard again because in this world it's easy to say, well, look at what what's happening there. I should follow that way. But it's like listen to what's inside there. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. Now I do want to do something different. This is the first time you're going to do this. That I'm going to do this actually on the show, but I think it'd be fun. I want you to help me sign off here. You want to do that with me? Okay, cool. Okay, just in case you were like, no, I don't want to do that. So all you got to do is I'm going to say what I always say, and I want you to say the last phrase, which is just stay magical. All right?
Stay magical.
Stay magical. Awesome. Yeah, that's all we're going to say. Okay, here we go. So, guys, I want to thank you guys for listening. And please, again, follow LJ and all her links there. Check out what's going on there. I want you guys to have a great night, day, weekend, whenever you're listening to this. And as always,
stay magical.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, LJ. Thank you so much for being on. I look forward to everything that's going to happen with you in the future. I really look forward to following you and following your journey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This was the Talk About the Magic podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay magical.